Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, big things are happening in Evansville. The mayor joins us with a rundown. IU dedicates its new supercomputer. What does the 2020 real estate market look like in Indiana? The Indiana Sports Corp wants you in the game. Tyner Pond Farm goes organic. Canada's consul general talks about the country's relationship with the Hoosier state. And our panel of insiders weighs in on the top stories in business. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Big things are happening in Evansville. Projects on the docket include the downtown Deaconess Clinic, the $40 million post house development, and the Deaconess Aquatic Center. Evansville Mayor Lloyd Wenneke joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about the city's momentum.
As I mentioned, a lot going on. Let's get right to it. One of the big announcements in the region and really for the state as well, Toyota last week really closing out what will be a $2.3 billion investment, 550 jobs. That part of a bigger story in the region.
Toyota is a big driver of the economic engine for all of Southwest Indiana. 7,000 employees, literally over $5 billion in investment since opening in 1996. It's a huge part of why Southwest Indiana is buzzing the way it is.
Well, let's talk specifically your city, Evansville, and downtown. A lot of attention, and you and others have been very intentional about investment downtown. One of the projects, the Stone Family Center for the Health Sciences, which has been open about a year now, going into its second year. Talk about the impact that has had downtown.
So to be clear, this is an expansion of the IU Medical School campus presence in downtown, and it's a collaborative educational effort between IU, the University of Evansville, and the University of Southern Indiana. So you have graduate and undergraduate students learning health care in one setting. The IU School of Dentistry has its fourth-year residency program there, so there's a 14-seat dental clinic there. The anticipation of that opening, and now the second building on that campus, which will open this spring, has meant more than 60 new businesses have opened around downtown, in and around downtown, from restaurants to bars to shops to interior design studios. It's really been a big driver of our resurgence downtown.
And that second phase, Deaconess, putting a health center there. And how about the vibrancy, living downtown? Because I know that was a piece of what was anticipated.
Yeah, my wife and I, Carol, live right downtown. We live at 3rd and Main. And so it's very common now to come home from an evening out and see loads and loads of people downtown. 10 years ago, that might not have been the case, but people could be in town or downtown for a concert, a basketball game, a hockey game. They may just be coming downtown for a great dinner at a locally owned restaurant. Convention business,
hotels, hotel space, hotel rooms, long been wanted in downtown Evansville, and it was a long time coming. But now you have the DoubleTree Hotel, which is open, the Hyatt Place Hotel about to open. What has that meant, or what impact has that had on the convention business, in particular your sports niche?
Yes, our sports tourism has grown very nicely. We've been able to do what Indianapolis has done on a smaller scale, and we've carved out a really good area for ourselves. We're the host. We're in the second year of a 4-year commitment from the NCAA to host the Division II Elite Eight basketball tournament. That's a big deal for us. We've been able to attract the Ohio Valley Conference men's and women's basketball tournament that had been previously in Nashville, Tennessee for 2.5 decades. We're in our 3rd year there. So the additional hotel capacity has really helped us expand our sports tourism, and that's a big driver of why we're successful too.
Technology and innovation are part of the downtown development too, specifically the post house. Talk about what that is, because it's really about future living, futuristic living, if you will, and one of your regional cities projects.
Well, I may get some pushback from my colleagues around Indiana, but I think this is arguably the best regional cities project in Indiana. The whole idea behind regional cities was to drive investment in our regional cities to draw millennials and improve quality of place. This is a joint venture between Vectren, now a CenterPoint company, and General Electric. Vectren wants to test new sources of residential energy, and GE wants to test the efficiency of their smart appliances. So you'll have real-time connectivity between those two. Think a living lab, if you will. So 144 market-rate apartment units downtown, underground parking for 150 cars, really dynamic green space that will be open to the entire community, right next to where Brewburger is. So it's a really dynamic project for Evansville. Architecturally, it's unique for downtown also.
Very quickly, we only have 15 seconds, Mayor, but the old National Tower, which has been vacant for a long time, has been acquired. What's the potential there? Tallest building between Indianapolis and Nashville, right?
Tallest building in a 130-mile square radius, radius rather, purchased by the Domo Group. Very confident that it will be one of the big mixed-use developments, 60-plus apartments with retail and shops. That's an 18 to 24-month timeline, but we're very confident that will be a very successful project as well.
Very good. Evansville Mayor Lloyd Winnicke, obviously a lot going on in Southwest Indiana. We appreciate you coming by. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Still to come, a 2020 real estate market preview from FC Tucker and your chance to take part in a wave of major sporting events in Indianapolis. But first, Indiana University says its new artificial intelligence supercomputer, Big Red 200, is the fastest supercomputer in the state. It was dedicated as part of IU's recent ceremony celebrating its 200th anniversary. Vice President for Research Technologies Matt Link came in studio to discuss what Big Red can do for IU and beyond.
Okay, Big Red 200, it replaces a very fast computer, but one that became outdated. Give us some perspective on how fast Big Red 200 is and why it is one of the fastest supercomputers in the country.
So if every person in the state of Indiana did a calculation every second, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, it would take them over 28 years to do the same amount of calculations that Big Red 200 can do in 1 second.
Oh my, wow.
Yeah.
That is impressive. And it's firepower that has the potential for real impact for the university, for the state of Indiana. First of all, this $9.6 million investment. Why is, in your view, is this a really good investment to make?
So, no university or state funds were used to purchase Big Red 200. The money that has come in over the grants of Big Red 2 and other grants in the university, the overhead on that was used to fund Big Red 200. So for the course of time that we ran Big Red 2, its predecessor, researchers that ran jobs on Big Red 2 brought in over $350 million in research grants and contracts. The impact is significant. We can look at the hard sciences, the social sciences, the natural sciences, medicine. They'll all be able to utilize Big Red 200. And today, as the changing research goes, we are faced with bigger challenges that require more horsepower, that require artificial intelligence to be able to manipulate huge data sets on those systems. And as one of the nation's leading research universities, having that as part of a comprehensive package over the past 20 years at IU will enable significant research at Indiana University.
Well, we'll talk about that because, as you mentioned, world-class university is situated right here in Indiana. The kinds of research, the IU School of Medicine and so many others, some of the kinds of things that will be done on this computer.
So a couple of big wins. First is we're looking at the Medical Molecular Genetics Group is looking at all the omics research that the AI-capable machine will do. You've got neuroimaging with Dr. Andy Sakin at the Stark Neuroimaging Center. And the breakthroughs that they will make, being able to look at MRI images, for example. There have been plenty of studies that have shown that looking at an MRI image with a computer capable with AI capabilities is more accurate to a couple percent than an actual human. Wow. Now, that's not going to replace humans, of course, right? That's just going to kind of drive everything down to where people can actually look at the MRI and do the diagnosis.
And I've got to say this asset for Indiana University, obviously, but as an asset for the state of Indiana, too, which continues to push forward with life sciences and other initiatives.
That's exactly right. And I think, what we'll see with life sciences, what we'll see with IU Health, what we'll see with the physical sciences is just the ability to collaborate more, do more, and do things that were not possible before, even at scale. Yeah. One of our jobs at IU is to reduce the time to science. By reducing the time to science, you get more science done.
Well put. Matt Link, Associate VP for Research Technologies at IU Big Red 200. Very fast, one of the fastest supercomputers in the country. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Later in the podcast, the Indiana Sports Corp wants you in the game, and some recognition for Tyner Pond Farm. But now, how will the 2020 presidential election impact the Indiana real estate market? Is there potential for an Indiana housing bubble? FC Tucker Company CEO Jim Litton takes on these questions and more as he gives us a preview of the 2020 Indiana real estate market.
We want to talk about 2020, but let's look back quickly at 2019. Seemingly another strong year for real estate.
Another banner year. It was a little crazy, though. January and February of 19 were not very strong. And January and February were sort of a hangover from the fourth quarter of 18. And if you remember, in the fourth quarter of 18, interest rates started going up, and the rumors were that they were going to go up 3 or 4 times. The stock market was in disarray. So that carried over to January and February. In fact, at the end of February of 19, the market was off about 15% in units. But then it started roaring back when the spring came, and the year finished up strong. It was, if it wasn't a record year, it was very close to a record year. And it's getting very difficult to increase these numbers each year, and the reason being we just don't have the inventory.
Inventory going to be tight. Okay, 2020 presidential election year.
Yes.
What impact might that have on the market this year, depending maybe on who wins the presidential election?
Well, you know, that's a $64,000 question. Right now, the market started off strong. And I was with a group this morning, and I reported to them that it is my feeling that when we get to about late September, early October, if the last elections were any indication, they have been so contentious that it could upset the market a little bit. Historically, if the incumbent wins, it's business as usual. If another party wins, there's usually about a 2 or 3 month period of everyone saying, let's wait and see what happens. But I think we're going to have a good year.
Yeah, as you look statewide, we've talked Indy here, but talk about markets around the state.
The markets around the state have been very similar to Indianapolis. They have the same challenges that we do: lack of inventory. Prices are increasing throughout the state about 5 to 6% a year, which is healthy. It's not out of control. But when you go to Evansville, and I know that you just had Mayor Weineke on, they've had so much job creation down there. Their market's very healthy. Fort Wayne has done well. Bloomington and Lafayette are doing great. We've got offices in 35 markets throughout the state, and it's been very good.
Yeah. As you look at the year ahead, everyone's obviously focused on mortgage rates. So what those might do, any projections on where rates might be headed?
Well, you know, the Federal Reserve has made a policy statement that they're going to keep rates where they are as long as inflation is under 2%. And right now it's under 2%. And so I think these rates are going to stay the same. And, you know, as you and I have talked in the past, there are 3 things that drive the real estate market. Number one, interest rates. They're in the mid 3s right now, and that's an awful good rate. The other is consumer confidence. It's at a near all-time high. And third is unemployment. It's in the 3s. It's like 3 legs on a stool. And if those 3 legs are standing, I mean, there's no indication of why our market shouldn't just be great.
All right, positive forecast. Jim Litton, the CEO at FC Tucker Company. Jim, as always, great perspective. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, an organic distinction for Tyner Pond Farm, and Canada's Consul General talks trade with Indiana. But first, Indianapolis is preparing for an unprecedented run of major sporting events over the next 2 years, including the 2021 NBA All-Star Game and the 2022 College Football Playoff National Championship. The Indiana Sports Corp is launching a campaign to boost community involvement. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman has more on the In the Game campaign.
Well, with the NCAA Men's Final Four and NBA All-Star Game coming just weeks apart in 2021, and in the 2022 College Football Playoff National Championship and a host of other major sporting events, it's going to be all hands on deck. And for that reason, the Indiana Sports Corp and city officials gathered at Lucas Oil Stadium this week for a call to action.
We would like everyone to get in the game. Get in the Game, the newest campaign launched by the Indiana Sports Corp, inviting the community to be a part of the historic lineup of sporting events coming to the Circle City.
It's a 2-year campaign designed to really encourage people to support, advocate, and volunteer over the next 2 years where we have this incredible run of events. But a big part of this, too, is just really engagement. How do we get people to come out and volunteer and be a part of these events? We're going to need more than 10,000 volunteers to execute these events at a high level.
Another key component to the campaign, fundraising, which has been led by the Indy Championship Fund, set up to drive financial support for the 3 marquee events.
Our goal is $25 million. Of that $25 million, we've earmarked $3 million for legacy impact in the community, and then $22 million will deliver the events. So our budget of $25 million, against that budget, we have now raised $20.5 million. So we have put together extraordinary local organizing committees for the 3 events. And those committees are hard at work, focusing on the same type of activation of our community that we experienced with the Super Bowl. I believe that we will make this a series of community celebrations of what we are as a city, as a region, and as a state. And in so doing, the people of our community will come to Indianapolis and they will celebrate what we are. I think we can very much maintain the standard we set with the Super Bowl and probably exceed it.
Big expectations, big events, and big potential economic impact, right?
Big impact.
Yeah.
You know, in 2 years, 19 plus events here in Indianapolis. They're anticipating over $600 million in economic impact. So,
very significant.
So huge for the city.
And Indianapolis has a reputation, obviously, for volunteers. To put on this many events, and the big event's going to have a huge volunteer need.
10,000 plus employees over the next 24 months. And Ryan Vaughn with the Indiana Sports Corp tells me every single person that's ever volunteered for an event has said that they've gotten more out of the experience than they could have ever imagined.
Later in the podcast, a talk with Canada's Consul General and perspective on the top stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But now, Tyner Pond Farm is now certified organic. Nearly 10 years after the Greenfield Company began converting lifeless crop ground into healthy soil and pastures, the USDA has recognized it as certified organic. Co-owner Amy Baggett joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
So we are a statewide show, so for folks who may not have heard of Tyner Pond, you deliver food locally here in central Indiana, and the key differentiator is that you're pasture raised.
Correct.
Explain what that means exactly.
So what that means is that all of our animals live on pasture 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they eat what they should be eating. The chickens eat grass because they're omnivores, the pigs eat grass, and the cows as well.
Okay, so your land recently has been certified organic,
Right.
which was a huge, long, very complicated, expensive process. The list could go on. But it's actually part of a much bigger movement at the farm called holistic management. So tell us again, what does that mean about this new movement?
Okay, so that means what we're going to be focusing on moving forward is that we're going to run our operations and our production holistically, with the center core of everything being our soil health. And so it's very important for us that we had organically certified land, because it matters so much for our soil to be healthy, because then everything else falls into place after that.
Right, and so this is not a Tyner Pond movement. This is actually a big movement in the food industry, and it's based off of the Savory Institute.
Correct.
And they're working a nonprofit to establish 100 hubs in the world to sort of move along this holistic management. Tell us how Tyner Pond, right here in Indiana, is helping to blaze that trail.
Well, we are so excited because we've recently been approved to become an international influencer hub through Savory, which will be an 18-month process that we've started. And basically what that means is we'll learn these holistic management for production and for organization that we'll put into place, and then people from all around the world will come to learn from us at Tyner Pond Farm.
Right here in Indiana.
Right here in Indiana.
And you mentioned that for farmers who haven't been farming this way, it is a big change, and it's a hard change to make. So Indiana, a lot of old farming institutions here. How do you get farmers to buy in to a movement that's brand new?
Right. It's difficult too, and they're in a really difficult position, because if they've been farming conventionally for a long time, it's very difficult to switch out of that. But there are movements that you can do and steps that you can take. You can start doing cover crops. You can start doing no-till crop raising. You can reduce your inputs chemically. There's a lot of things that can be done. It just takes a little bit of effort to change. So.
And baby steps.
Baby steps.
And you talked about the hub, and this would be an international recognition. You've traveled the world to explore some of these ideas. Tell us what kinds of things you've seen and where you've seen them and how it could happen in Indiana.
Sure. Well, we were in Zimbabwe in 2017 and again in 2019, and then we just recently came back from Patagonia. And both places we went to, we were with the Savory Hub through the Savory Institute. And you can imagine they're very different climates, but the same results were being found using animals on pasture to heal your soil and create this pasture land, sequester carbon, have really nutritious food. It's all plays a part, and it's really important.
So your land is now certified organic
Correct.
in Hancock County. Tell us then what's next to get your products, the meat, organic. How do you do that?
So that takes a little bit more effort that we're working toward. It'll probably be about a year or two before we're there, because we have to limit all inorganic things coming into our farm, like hay or straw, which we are currently using. So as we move toward holistic management, we will be able to get a much better grip on that and not have to import so many hay or straw from other farms. It'll be a lot easier to get that distinction. So
okay, and so we've talked a lot about change
Yes.
in this segment, but you are the same Tyner Pond.
Exactly.
That everybody knows.
Our product has not changed. If anything, it's going to become more nutritious and healthier, because we're going to focus more on our soil. And just like your gut biome, your soil biome is so important. So if our animals are grazing on the most healthy soil that they can, it's going to be better for you. So no, same great product.
Same delivery,
Same delivery.
70-mile radius.
Correctly.
Of Hancock County.
Free from, exactly.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining us
Kylie.
and telling us about this change. Keep us posted on the progress.
Thank you. Thank
Exciting.
you for having an interest in it.
Absolutely, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Still to come, our panel of insiders looks at the top stories of the week. But first, Canada's Consul General Joe Comartin was in Indianapolis recently for Canada Week in Indiana. Canada is Indiana's largest trading partner, with the relationship valued at more than $21 billion in 2018. Comartin spoke with Gary Dick about the importance of the partnership.
Talk about the focus of your visit here and some of the relationships you'll be doing.
Well, overall, we do this once a year with the states that I'm responsible for, which is Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. And we'll spend a whole week in that particular state doing outreach work with political people in some degree, but a lot of it with the private sector and institutions, universities and upper level of educational centers. It's an attempt on our part to do much more of a connection at a personal level with leadership in those states.
Talk about the relationship, the trading relationship and otherwise between Canada and Indiana in particular, and the importance of that.
Well, the terminology we always use is we're your primary source of both exports and imports, which is true of 33 of the 50 states. And by comparison, you'll take your next 6 trading partners. They don't quite match just the trade that Indiana has with Canada. So it's a very, very important relationship, a very large relationship, one that we expect will continue to grow, and one that's been quite long-standing. This isn't new, but it does continue to expand.
As you look at the Indiana economy, there is a lot of momentum in the tech space, in advanced manufacturing, a couple of big announcements last week with Toyota and Fiat Chrysler. Your view of the Indiana economy?
Well, it's healthy, that's for sure. One of the things we have a bit concerned about has been foreign investment. It seems to have installed both domestic and foreign investment. And we think in part that's because of the trading war that I guess where U.S. is having with China, but even more so in terms of the negotiations and the process around the ratification of the USMCA agreement. Putting that behind us, I think, is going to give a boost to freeing up some of those investment dollars. So I think you're going to see some more announcements as you saw these last couple of weeks.
Talk about the USMCA and your view of the impact it will have, and to the extent you can talk specifically about how that might impact trade between Indiana and Canada.
Well, I think the big one we'll see for this state, and actually all 4 of the states that I'm responsible for, is an increase in the number of jobs that we're going to have in the automotive, the manufacturing sector generally, the automotive. I think we're going to see an increase in trade in the agricultural sector because of some of the changes that were made in terms of that. I think that'll be to the advantage of the U.S. I think in the automotive sector, manufacturing sector, where both of our countries are going to benefit from that. So I think those are the things we're watching for. I think a bit of a caution that the implementation process is going to take a bit of a time. We've done some fairly new things, both around labor standards and environmental standards. Enforcing that, making sure that it's complied with, will require some additional work. So I think the next year we'll see governments on all three borders working at getting that implementation as effectively and as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
So from an implementation standpoint, it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight, so there'll be some work. There's work left to do on that.
No, it'll be a gradual thing. But I know from talking to our customs people, both on the Canadian and American side of the border, they're waiting for more directions as to how they're going to help implement that. So that's one area that we'll need to be spending some time on, and it will take some time.
The USMCA replaces the 26-year-old North American Free Trade Agreement. Supporters of the USMCA says it removes trade barriers, reduces tariffs as well. According to the U.S. Trade Representative's office, Indiana exported $13.4 billion worth of goods to Canada and $5.4 billion to Mexico in 2018.
And finally, our insiders weigh in on economic growth in Evansville, the Get in the Game campaign, and more. This week's panel includes Vox Global Managing Director Mike Marker, Krieg DeVault partner Deborah Daniels, and Launch Fishers founder John Wexler.
I mentioned off the top, we had Evansville Mayor Lloyd Winnicky on the show off the top talking about economic development momentum, John, in Evansville and Southwest Indiana. Big, huge Toyota announcement about a week ago or so. But in Evansville, millions of dollars downtown that really helping to transform that city.
Yeah, it was apparent years ago that they were really investing in entrepreneurship and innovation early. We made several trips down there, and you could see the leadership from the mayor's office all the way through the chamber, through the state support, through the ISBDC office that was down there, that they were really committed to business, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I think we're going to start to see the fruits of that investment in infrastructure here in the coming years.
I mean, it's nice to see the hard work of Mayor Winnicky and leaders like Greg Wathen and others who have worked at this for a long time, really paying off. The riverfront that they have down there, the projects they've done around that, the IU Medical Center and the drive around healthcare talent there, the entertainment venues that John mentioned, and the corporate citizens who have been there and investing for a long time. It's just really nice to see the growth that's happening. And then you got Todd Licklider now running the Purple Aces.
We're on the basketball program there. You're right.
Right.
What do you think it is? Because it always hasn't been the case down there. They've, from time to time, maybe struggled getting some things going, but maybe it's the leadership, bringing people together, and now things beginning to snowball.
I think leadership, a shared vision. It's a tri-state area there, so they've become a bit of a talent hub there. And I just think that shared vision and all rowing in the same direction has been really helpful.
Certainly a vision for Indianapolis and Central Indiana over the years has been sports. That continues certainly to be the case, and we're about to, in the next 2 years, have an unprecedented string of big sporting events, Deborah, from the NBA All-Star Game, Men's Final Four, National College Football Championship. Raising a lot of money, too, $20 million of a $25 million goal, so well underway to make that happen.
This may be one of the most ambitious undertakings I think Indianapolis has ever gotten involved in, including the Super Bowl.
Right.
Because there are so many of these events, and they're almost to their goal. So they're doing fine with the fundraising.
And it's fundraising, very important, obviously, but volunteers. And Indianapolis has been known and built its reputation on volunteers, but this is really going to put it to the test.
I think this is a no-brainer. In Indianapolis, or Central Indiana generally, because people will come from the surrounding counties to help, I don't think we'll have any trouble finding 10,000 volunteers. I'm excited.
Also, technology continues to be big in Indiana, not just, again, here in Central Indiana. Notre Dame's Idea Center, really a startup, kind of an incubator on the Notre Dame campus, announced this week that they've really doubled in 2019 the total number of startups in the previous 2 years. And John, I know you're familiar with the people at the Idea Center. Nice to see Notre Dame in the technology game as well.
And they're doing just a world-class job at what they're trying to accomplish: commercialization, spinning up startup tech and innovation companies. I think when you look at, compared with what Purdue does, Notre Dame, and IU Research and Technology Corp, those are probably three amazing economic engines for the next few decades. And what Notre Dame is doing is just remarkable. So we're really big fans of Innovation Park. We've done some trips up there. They've been down to visit us at the IoT lab and launch Fishers, and we're big supporters of their effort there.
Well, we're talking innovation. We also earlier on the show talked about the new IU supercomputer. Big Red 200 ties in with the IU Bicentennial, one of the fastest supercomputers in the country. That's a big asset.
It really is. It was amazing in the release and the discussion about the supercomputer. They talked about the old one being obsolete, and I thought, man, my iPhone, 6 is still pretty cool, but apparently supercomputers go out of style pretty quickly. We've seen Big Red 2, and the infrastructure that they're building down there for the cyber focus of communities of tomorrow. We're just building competency there that's going to show leadership for decades into the future.
Yeah, and I think Fred Kate and Brad Wheeler and their teams deserve a lot of credit here because they've been on the leading edge of supercomputing as you look at big research universities nationally. And this move to Big Red 200 and the artificial intelligence that comes with that really puts them on a bigger scale nationally and internationally. So it's good news for the state and for the university, but as you think about Hoosiers in general, what this type of supercomputing and AI makes possible are things like personalizing treatments for things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and predicting earthquakes and looking at ways to treat cancers. And so it's going to have a positive impact on the everyday lives of Hoosiers as well.
Yeah, as we continue to have a look around the state of Indiana, Indianapolis International Airport, certainly we report a lot on it being named continually the best airport in North America. It's not the only airport in Indiana. Fort Wayne International Airport reached a big milestone last year, 10th consecutive year of growth at the airport. Deborah, how important is that to have, Indy with nonstops and the growth there, but to have these regional cities, these airports do well?
It's tremendously important. Not long ago, we were talking about South Bend and the growth at that airport, and now you've got Fort Wayne. They're expanding their terminal. They're increasing their nonstops. It's going to be a real boon to economic development there. Yeah,
and what I meant to say was 10th consecutive year of passenger growth, so positive.
Yeah, and when you think about the growth happening up in Northeast Indiana, the airport's a part of that, right? It's a major infrastructure and attraction, and the group up there that's working towards getting to 1 million people in the population in that region by 2030, and the airport as part of that hub and attraction is really important for that effort.
Yeah. I can't have an insider segment without talking about food and comfort food coming to the yard at Fishers District. And John Wexler, you're very engaged and involved in that. Talk about not only this announcement this week, but more broadly. The yard at Fishers has been talked about for a long time. It's really getting close, I think, to really opening up all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll lead with fried chicken. Yeah. All right. So natural state provision is the third now of our 3 stalls. We have Carlos Salazar and Little Dumplings is his concept, and then Korave, which is a Korean fast casual concept. So what we're going to see there is the 3 restaurants will feed Sun King's Innovation Brewery. We think that each of these stand on their own as really great concepts, but they complement, everything goes great with Sun King's flavors. And then we have a 4th installment there called the Signature Table. That is a culinary performance space where you can have private dinners, group events. We're going to do classes. We're putting together a Valentine's Day dinner where you can come in and one person can prepare dinner for the other right there with our chef. Wow. So it's going to be a really unique culinary experience, all within this $115 million master plan development, 450 apartments, 300 hotel rooms, and 100,000 square feet of retail with Topgolf, IKEA, and Portillo's all right there together. So I think we're going to see a real force for retail and culinary right there in Fishers.
Yeah, is it the next wave of development up there?
It is. It's a defining development. I think the mayor and his team have done an amazing job of kind of master planning this entertainment corridor. Yep. And when you look at what a little bit of room is left there and kind of dream about what might happen next, I think we have a really good platform platform, and it's going to be fun here in the coming years.
We only have about 20 seconds, Deborah, but how important is it to have more diverse offerings from a restaurant and entertainment standpoint, not just in downtown Indianapolis, but in places like Fisher's and outside of downtown Indy?
Oh, it's critically important, and it even extends to places like Greencastle. There are lots of places out around the state. Now, Fisher's isn't out around the state; it's very close in, but that are really diversifying opportunities, and that brings more people in. So, Fisher's is going to get more and more young people in, which is critically important for the workforce.
We visited Greencastle. We visited Bridges Wine Bar. That's a great example of activity around the state. Great Insiders panel for another week. Mike Marker, Deborah Daniels, John Wexler, thank you all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.